The Chakma, also known as the Daringnut people, is an ethnic group concentrated in the Chittagong Hill Tracts of Bangladesh. Today, the geographic distribution of Chakmas is spread across Bangladesh and parts of northeastern India, western Burma, southwest China and diaspora communities in the USA, Canada, UK, France, South Korea, Japan and Australia. Within the Chittagong Hill Tracts, the Chakma are the largest ethnic group and make up half of the region's population. The Chakma are divided into 46 clans or gothas. They have their own language, customs and culture, and profess Theravada Buddhism. The Chakma royal family is one of the major Buddhist royal houses of South Asia. Origins: Chakmas are Tibeto-Burman, and are thus closely related to tribes in the foothills of the Himalayas. The Chakmas are believed to be originally from Arakan who later on immigrated to Bangladesh in around 15th century, settling in the Cox's Bazar district, the Korpos Mohol area, and in the Indian states of Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Tripura. History: the Arakanese referred to the Chakmas as Saks or Theks. In 1546 CE, when the king of Arakan, Mengbeng, was engaged in a battle with the Burmese, the Sak king appeared from the north and attacked Arakan, and occupied the Ramu of Cox's Bazar, the then territory of the Kingdom of Arakan. Diego de Arrasta, a Portuguese, drew a map of Bengal, which was published as Descripção do Reino de Bengala in the book Quarta Decade da Asia by João de Barros in 1615 CE. The map shows a place called Chakamas, on the eastern bank of the Karnafuli River, suggesting that this is where the Chakmas used to live at that time. The Arakan king Meng Rajagra conquered this land, and in a 1607 CE letter to a Portuguese merchant named Philip de Brito Niket, addressed himself as the highest and most powerful king of Arakan, of Chakamas and of Bengal. Defeated by the Arakanese, the Chakmas entered the present Chittagong Hill Tracts and made Alekyangdong, present-day Alikadam, the capital. From Alekyangdong they went north and settled in the present-day Rangna, Rayosan, and Fatak Cheri Upazilas of Chittagong district. In 1666 CE, Shaistar Khan, who was then Mughal governor of Bengal, defeated the Arakanese, conquered Chittagong, and renamed it Islamabad. However, in the early days the Mughal supremacy was confined only to the plain areas of Chittagong, and the Chakmas remained practically unaffected. After a few years, when a dispute developed between the Mughals and the Chakmas, the Mughals demanded tribute from the Chakmas for trading with Chittagong. In 1713 CE, peace was established, and soon a stable relationship developed between the Chakmas and the Mughals. The latter never demanded complete subjugation from the former. The Mughals also rewarded the Chakma king Shukdev Roy, who established a new capital in his own name, in an area is still known as Shuk Bilash. There are still ruins of the royal palace and other establishments. Subsequently the capital was shifted to Rajanagar, Ranirhat, Rangna Upatsila, Chittagong district. Etymology: the name Chakma derives from Sanskrit word Sakthman or beholder of power. This name was given to Chakmas by one of the Burmese kings during the Baghan era. Burmese kings hired Chakmas as ministers, advisors and translators of Buddhist Pali texts. As employees of the king, the Chakmas wielded power in Burmese court disproportionate to their number. The Burmese people still refer Chakmas as Sakorthit, which are shortened and corrupted forms of Sakthaman. At one stage, the accepted name of the tribe was Sakmi. Later it was further corrupted to Chakmi. The East India Company period. 3 years after the Battle of Plassey, Mir Kashim, the new Nawab of Murshidabad, awarded the British East India Company with Chittagong, Burdwan and Midnapur. On 5 January 1761 the company representative Harry Varels took over charges of Chittagong from Subedar Muhammad Reza Khan. But the Chakma king Sherdullah Khan, who was practically independent though nominally paid tribute to the Mughals, didn't accept the hegemony of the company and the demand of taxes at enhanced rate. A protracted war started and it continued up high to 1787. The East India Company launched 4 offensives against the Chakmas in 1770, 1780, 1782 and 1785. In 1785 the company started peace negotiations with the then Chakma king Jan Bakhsh Khan, son of Shah Dulak Khan. Later in 1787 the king accepted the sovereignty of the company and agreed to pay 500 maunds of cotton annually. The peace agreement or treaty was signed at Kolkata. The main provisions of the treaty between the Governor-General Lord Cornwallis and the Chakma king were as following. The East India Company recognized Jan Bakhsh Khan as the Raja of the Chakmas. It was agreed that the collection of revenue was the responsibility of the Raja. The British government would preserve the tribal autonomy and migration from the plains would be restricted. Jan Bakhsh Khan was bound by the treaty to maintain peace in his territory. British troops would remain in the Chakma territory not to terrify the Chakmas but to protect the land from the inroads of the fierce tribes. In 1829, Hallett, then Commissioner of Chittagong, reaffirmed that the hill tribes were not British subjects but merely tributaries and we recognized no right on our part to interfere with their internal arrangements. The near neighborhood of a powerful and stable government naturally brought the chief by degree under control and every leading chief paid to the Chittagong collector a certain tribute or yearly gifts. These sums were at first fluctuating in amount but gradually were brought to specific and fixed limit, eventually taking the shape not as tribute but as revenue to the state. Jan Bakhsh Khan shifted his capital to a new place naming it Rajanagar, near present-day Rangna. After Jan Baksh's death in 1800, his son Tabur Khan became king, but he died shortly. In 1802 Tabur Khan's younger brother Jabbar Khan became king, and ruled for 10 years. After his death, his son Durram Bakhsh Khan became king in 1812. He ruled up to 1832. After his death in 1832 without any male issue, there was chaos and the government appointed Suklal Dewan as the manager. In the meantime Rani Kalindi, widow of Durram Bakhsh Khan, applied to the government to allow her to run the state affairs. The government accepted her application, and in 1844 issued an order to that effect. In 1846 the annual revenue payable to the company was refixed at 11,803.00 Rs. After the Great Sepoy Mutiny in 1857, the British government assumed direct control of the administration of India from the East India Company along with Chittagong Hill Tracts, which was not yet formally separated from Chittagong. But the territorial jurisdiction of the Chakma Raja was fixed by a proclamation dated 6th Shravana 1170 m.s. by the company as all the hills from the Feni River to the Sangu and from Nizampur Road in Chittagong to the hills of Kuki Raja. After Rani Kalinde's death in 1873, her grandson Harish Chandra became the Chakma Raja and was vested with the title Roy Bahadur. The British government period. After the war with the English, the Chakmas became very weak militarily. Since then the Kukish, who were independent tribes living further eastward, used to make frequent murderous raids on the British subjects in Kashmir, Noakhali, Kamilla and other neighbouring tracts under Rani Kalindi. They raided Chittagong Hill Tracts and the neighbouring tracts in 1847, 1848, 1859 and 1860. As a consequence, with a view to paying the necessary attention to the areas of the front areas experiencing repeated raids and to protecting the people from the aggression of the independent tribes living further east, but primarily to occupy the Chakma land. The Lieutenant Governor of Bengal recommended the removal of the hill tracts from the regulation district and the appointment of superintendent over the tribes. Both these recommendations were adopted by an Act 22 1860 AD which came into effect from the 18th of August of that year. Thus hill tracts were separated from Chittagong and a superintendent was appointed for Chittagong hill tracts and its headquarters was established at Chandraghona. The hills in his charge were henceforth known by the name of the hill tracts of Chittagong. For the next few years attention was directed to the preservation of peace of the frontier. In 1869 headquarters was shifted to Rangamati. Earlier the official designation of the post of superintendent was changed to deputy commissioner and full control of all matters pertaining to both revenue and justice throughout the hill tracts was vested in his office. With the prevailing frontier situation in the British government put pressure on the Chakma chief to shift his capital to Rangamati and ultimately in 1874 it was shifted to Rangamati from Rajanagar. At that time cotton was heavily grown in Chittagong hill tracts and it was much important to the British for their mills. Hence effective control of Chittagong hill tracts was also important for them. In 1881 the government decided to divide Chittagong hill tracts into 3 circles and the rulers were designated as chiefs. The circles are Chakma Circle, Bomong Circle, Mong Circle. Each circle was headed by a chief. Chakma Circle was headed by a Chakma, Bomong Circle by a Bomong and the Burmese People Circle by a Mong. Disambiguation needed. The Chakma Circle was centrally located and inhabited mainly by the Chakmas. The Bomong Circle was under the subjection of the Bomong chief of Arakanese extraction, origin and the Mong Circle was also inhabited by the Arakanese-speaking clans with a sprinkling of Tripura immigrants and headed by another ruler of Arakanese extraction. The reason of this division was that the British government was not in favour of the strong power of the Chakma chief who held control over these hilly tribes. Further, the government was feeling increasingly concerned about the political and administrative affairs of these tracts. Hence they aimed firstly to lay the foundation of administration in a restricted manner with the following basic objectives: to keep supervision on the rule of the Chakma chief and also to curtail some of his powers, to protect the British subjects from the Kuki menace, to preserve peace in the frontier areas so that peace prevailed in Chittagong hill tracts and cotton could be grown and made available for their mills. After the creation of a separate district and also 3 circles, the Kuki menace to Chittagong hill tracts and other adjoining areas did not stop. The Shendus, another ferocious tribe, made occasional raids in the hill tracts between 1865 and 1888 and killed many people, including massacre of Lt. Stewart and his Survey party. In 1872, 1890 military offensives were launched simultaneously into Lushai Hills from Chittagong and Burma in collaboration with the governments of Bengal, Assam and Burma, and the whole of Kuki land was brought under British control. On 1 April 1900, the south and the north Lushai Hills were merged to form a district of Assam province with headquarters at Aizawl. Lushai Hills are now the present-day Mizoram state of India. Due to revision of the boundaries, the Chakma chief had to forge some of his lands as also the subjects. Later the British through the Deputy Commissioner took over absolute power in Chittagong hill tracts including the Chakma Circle after implementation of the Chittagong hill tracts manual. Chittagong hill tracts was again declared as an excluded area under the British India Act of 1935. Modern times. Like in India in Mizoram and Tripura state, the Chakmas have lived in the modern state of Bangladesh much before it gained its independence. However, recent migrations of ethnic Bengalis into traditionally Chakma regions of Bangladesh have raised tensions in the Chittagong hill tracts. Successive governments have dealt forcefully with Chakma uprisings, and finally ended the conflict with the 1997 peace treaty. This forceful dealing and the construction of Kapte Dam by then Pakistan government in Chakma areas submerged cultivable lands and displaced thousands, resulted in the migration of a large population of Chakmas into Dian, the state of Arunachal Pradesh of the present Indian Union during 1964 to 1969. In February 1972, Prime Ministers of India and Bangladesh issued a joint statement by virtue of which the Government of India took a decision to confer citizenship on the Chakmas under Section 5 of the Citizenship Act 1955, but the state of Arunachal Pradesh had reservations on this count. Chakma were allowed to be rehabilitated under the decision of the Government of India. Election Commission of India framed guidelines to enable Chakmas have the right to vote by having their names enrolled in the electoral rolls of the concerned constituency where they have been settled. The Chakmas now have representations in the Mizoram General Assembly, Tripura Legislative Assembly and Tripura Tribal Area Autonomous District Council. The only seat of political power and identity is the Chakma Autonomous District Council in India, though it covers only 35% of the Chakmas living in Mizoram state in India. There are another 80,000 Chakmas in Rakhine state of Myanmar. The Chakmas in Myanmar are known as Daringnat people. In September 2015, Supreme Court of India passed a judgment directing the Government of India and of Arunachal Pradesh to grant India citizenship rights to all the Chakmas, holding that they could not be discriminated against any other Indian religion. The vast majority of the Chakma are followers of Theravada Buddhism, a religion that they have been practicing for centuries. However, their form of Buddhism has aspects of Hinduism and traditional religions as well. Foreign and local missionaries have been trying to convert the Chakmas to Christianity. This has created resentment among the Chakmas. Almost every Chakma village has a Buddhist temple. Buddhist priests or monks are called bhikkhus. They preside at religious festivals and ceremonies. The villages support their monks with food, gifts, and offerings to Buddha. The Chakmas also worship Hindu deities. Lakshmi, for example, is worshipped as the goddess of the harvest. Chakmas offer the sacrifice of goats, chickens, or ducks to calm the spirits that are believed to bring fevers and disease. Even though animal sacrifice is totally against Buddhist beliefs, the Chakma Buddhist priests ignore the practice. Language. Main article: Chakma language. Originally speaking a language belonging to the Tibeto-Burman family, some of the Chakmas have been influenced by neighboring Chittagonian, an Eastern Indo-Aryan language closely related to Assamese. Many linguists now consider the modern Chakma language part of the Eastern Indo-Aryan language. Changma Vaj is written in its own script, the Chakma script, also known as Ojibpath. Chakma is written in an alphabet which, allowing for its cursive form, is almost identical with the Khmer and the Lana characters, which was formerly in use in Cambodia, Laos, Thailand and southern parts of Burma. Culture. The Chakmas are a people with their own culture, folklore, literature and traditions. The Chakma women wear an ankle-length cloth around the waist which is also called finan, and also a hadi wrapped above the waist as well as silver ornaments. The finan and the hadi are colorfully hand-weaved with various designs. The design is first embroidered on a piece of cloth known as alam. Festivals. The most important festivals celebrated by the Chakmas are Bizu, Alpaloni, Buddha Purnima and Kathan Savadan. Chakmas celebrate various Buddhist festivals. The most important is Buddha Purnima. This is the anniversary of three important events in Buddha's life: his birth, his attainment of enlightenment, and his death. It is observed on the full moon day of the month of Asak. On this and other festival days, Chakmas put on their best clothes and visit the temple. There, they offer flowers to the image of Buddha, light candles, and listen to sermons from the priests. Alms are given to the poor, and feasts are held for the priests. The three-day festival known as Bishu, which coincides with the Bengali New Year's Day, is celebrated with much enthusiasm. Houses are decorated with flowers, young children pay special attention to the elderly to win the blessings, and festive dishes are prepared for guests. Bisu. Bisu is the most important socio-religious festival of the Chakma. This festival gave birth to the Bisu dance. The festival lasts for 3 days and begins on the last day of the month of Chaitra. The first day is known as Full Bisu. On this day, household items, clothes are cleaned and washed. Food items are collected to give the house a new look with the veil of different flowers. The second day, known as Mul Bisu Day, starts with the bath in the river. People wear new clothes and they make rounds of the village. They also enjoy specially made vegetable curry known as pasantan, different homemade sweets, and take part in different traditional sports. The day ends with the Bisu dance. The last day, which is known as Gojepojin, involves the performances of different socio-religious activities. In the context of its nature, some say that Bisu is a festival which revolves around agricultural activities because it is celebrated in mid-April when the earth is just drenched with the first rain and the sowing is taken up. And it is believed that with the objective of getting rich, harvest worship of the earth was arranged, which later on took the form of a festival. However, of late it has lost its agricultural character. Alphaloni. Alphaloni is a most important day for Chakma people. During Alphaloni, everyone takes a break from farming because it is harvest season. In Alphaloni, all farmers are taking rest and give also rest all animals, weapons of farmers. In this day they are eating new food, fruits from and offering and sharing with other. This day all people feel happy and enjoy with family, neighbor, relatives, etc. to offering new fruits from It is very historical day for Chakma people. We have celebrated this festival last 2,500 years. It is an old tradition during the king reign of Sudana, father of Siddhartha. This is old festival 2,500 years ago when the prince Siddhartha was meditating under tree. On the other side had celebrating plough festival their farmer parents and relatives etc. During that time he was practicing meditation and seeking an end to all suffering. Buddha Purnima. It is celebrated on the full moon day in the month of Basak. It actually encompasses the birth, enlightenment, and passing away of Lord Buddha. On the day of the worship, devotees go to the monastery with Sayong. The Buddhist priests known as Bhikkhu lead the devotees for chanting of mantra composed in Pali in praise of the holy triple gem, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Apart from this, other practices such as lighting of thousands of lamps, releasing of Fanuch Bhatti are also done as and when possible.